Admiral Sarah Chun stood in the dark room, her eyes fixed on the screen before her. The same video played again and again. She had watched it 100 times now, maybe more. Each time hurt just as much as the first. The screen showed New Geneva, station 18 months ago. Bright lights filled the meeting hall. Humans and aliens sat together around a massive table. Everyone was smiling. They thought they were making history that day. They thought they were bringing peace between Earth and the hegemony. Sarah's husband David was there, sitting with the other diplomats. He wore his best blue suit, the one she had picked out for him. He looked so proud, so happy. He believed they were doing something good for humanity. The alien delegates looked just like the pictures Sarah had studied in school. The hegemony had 7 different species in their group. Tall ones with 4 arms, short ones with gray skin, others that looked almost human except for their strange eyes. They all wore fancy robes and spoke in calm voices about trade and friendship. Sarah watched her husband lean forward to sign the peace treaty. His pen was halfway to the paper when it happened. Light filled the screen, bright white light that made everything disappear. When it faded, the meeting hall was gone. The station was gone. 40,000 people were gone, including David. The hegemony ships that had been protecting the ceremony suddenly turned their weapons on the human colonies. They had been planning this for years. While humans thought they were making friends, the aliens had been placing hidden weapons everywhere. Within 6 hours, 12 human worlds were destroyed. Sarah turned off the screen and rubbed her tired eyes. She had not slept well since that day. None of them had. The door behind her opened. General Marcus Torres walked in, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He set one down next to her and sat in the other chair. "Watching it again?" he asked. "Yes," Sarah said. She picked up the coffee but did not drink it. "I keep thinking I might see something new. Some sign that we missed." "There was no sign," Torres said. "They fooled everyone. Even our best intelligence people believed the hegemony wanted peace." Sarah laughed, but there was no joy in it. Peace. They used that word so many times during the talks. Peace and friendship and working together for the future. "They were buying time," Torres said, "learning our weaknesses, mapping our defenses, finding the best places to put their hidden weapons." Sarah nodded. She knew this, but it still hurt. To think about 40,000 people, Marcus. 40,000 people who trusted them. I know. My husband believed in what they were doing. He really thought we could trust them. Torres was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "David was a good man. He wanted to see the best in people, even alien people. And now he's dead because of it." Sarah finally took a sip of her coffee. It was cold, but she drank it anyway. Outside the window, Earth looked peaceful. Most people had no idea how close humanity had come to complete destruction. The hegemony could have wiped them out completely if they had wanted to. Instead, they left just enough humans alive to serve as an example. "The hegemony thinks we're finished," Sarah said. "They think we're too weak and too scared to fight back. Are we?" Torres asked as Sarah looked at him. His face was serious, but she could see something else in his eyes. Hope, maybe, or anger. She was not sure which. "No," she said, "we're not finished. We're just getting started." Torres smiled for the first time in months. "Good, because I have news from Titan." Sarah sat up straight. Titan was one of Saturn's moons. Before the attack, it had been home to humanity's most secret research projects. Most people thought the hegemony had destroyed those facilities. Most people were wrong. "What kind of news?" Sarah asked. "The kind you've been waiting for," Torres said. He pulled out a small device and pressed a button. A hologram appeared in the air between them. It showed a star map with dozens of red dots scattered across it. "What am I looking at?" Sarah asked. "Project Lazarus," Torres said. "We've been working on it since the attack. Every red dot is a sleeper ship hidden somewhere in space. Each ship has a crew of volunteers who gave up everything to become ghosts." Sarah stared at the map. There were so many dots. "How many ships?" 67, Torres said. "Each one is invisible to hegemony sensors. Each crew has spent the last 18 months learning everything about alien tactics and technology. And the blue dots? Weapon caches, Torres said. Hidden in asteroids? Dead planets? Empty space? Enough firepower to level a planet? Sarah felt something she had not felt in a long time. Not hope exactly, but something close to it. How long have you been planning this? Since the day they betrayed us, Torres said. We knew we couldn't fight them the normal way. They're too strong, too organized. So we decided to fight them the human way. Which is? Torres's smile grew wider. Dirty. Sarah stood up and walked to the window. Earth looked so small and fragile from here. Hard to believe it was home to the species that had once dreamed of exploring the stars. Now those dreams seemed impossible. The hegemony controlled most of the galaxy. They had rules about which species could travel between stars and which had to stay home. Humans were supposed to stay home. They made one mistake, Sarah said. What's that? They left us alive. Sarah turned away from the window. For the first time since David's death, she felt like herself again. Not the broken woman who watched videos of her dead husband. Not the defeated admiral of a conquered species. She was Sarah Chun and she had work to do. When do we start? She asked. The ghost crews are already in position, Torres said. They're just waiting for the signal. And what signal is that? Torres handed her a small red button. Your signal, Admiral. You're in command of this operation? Sarah looked at the button. Such a small thing to start a war with. But this was not really the start of the war. The war had started 18 months ago when the hegemony betrayed humanity's trust. This was just humanity finally deciding to fight back. The hegemony thinks we're beaten, Sarah said. They think we're too afraid to leave our solar system. Let them think that, Torres said. It will make the surprise even better. Sarah thought about David, about the 40,000 people who died on New Geneva Station, about the 12 worlds that were nothing but dust now, about all the humans who had believed in peace and friendship and working together for the future. The hegemony had taught humanity an important lesson that day. Never trust anyone who promises peace while hiding weapons behind their back. Never believe anyone who talks about friendship while planning betrayal. Humanity had learned that lesson well. Now it was time to teach the hegemony something in return. Sarah pressed the button. Across the galaxy, 67 ghost ships received the signal. Their crews woke up from 18 months of waiting. They checked their weapons, studied their targets one last time, and began to move. The hegemony was about to learn what happened when you betrayed humanity. They were about to learn that humans never forgot a betrayal. And they never forgave one either. The war was just beginning. Captain Zarthik stared at the report on his desk. The third supply convoy this month had vanished without sending a distress call. One moment the ships were there on the sensors, the next moment they were gone. No wreckage, no bodies, no trace. At all. Zarthik was not like the other hegemony officers. While they celebrated their easy victory over the humans, he worried. His forearms moved quickly as he typed notes into his computer. Something was wrong in the occupied territories. But none of his superiors wanted to hear about it. The door to his office opened. Commander Veltar walked in, his gray skin looking paler than usual. Another incident, he said. Where this time? Zarthik asked. Kepler Station? The entire communication array just stopped working. No warning, no malfunction alerts. The technicians say it looks like someone cut specific wires from inside the station. Zarthik rubbed his temples with two of his hands. How many guards were at that station? 200? Veltar said. All accounted for. All say they saw nothing unusual. 200 guards and no one saw anything, Zarthik repeated. Do you believe that? Veltar was quiet for a moment. Then he said, No, but what else could it be? The humans surrendered months ago. Their fleet is destroyed. Their colonies are under our control? Zarthik stood up and walked to the large window. That showed the space around their command ship. Dozens of hegemony vessels patrolled the area, keeping watch for any threats. But what if the threat was not coming from outside? What if it was already here, hiding among them? Pull up the incident map, Zarthik said. Veltar pressed some buttons on his tablet. A hologram appeared showing all the star systems under hegemony. Control, red dots marked where strange things had happened over the past 3 months. Missing convoys, broken communication systems, sensors that stopped working for no reason. Look at the pattern, Zarthik said. Veltar studied the map. I do not see a pattern. The incidents are scattered all over. Exactly, Zarthik said. They are scattered, but they are not random. Someone is moving from system to system, causing just enough trouble to make us worry, but not enough to make us panic. You think the humans are still fighting? I think the humans were never as broken as we believed. Far away, in an asteroid field that had no name, Commander Marcus Reed floated in zero gravity inside a ship that officially did not exist. The ship was painted black and covered with special materials that made it invisible to most sensors. It was small, built for a crew of only 12 people, but it was the most dangerous vessel in human space. Reed was reading reports from the other Ghost ships. Ghost 7 had successfully destroyed a hegemony supply depot. Ghost 15 had planted listening devices on an alien communication relay. Ghost 23 had rescued a group of human prisoners and made it look like an accident. Every mission was planned carefully. The Ghost crews did not just want to hurt the hegemony. They wanted to make the aliens nervous, paranoid, unsure of themselves. They wanted the hegemony to start making mistakes. Commander, said Lieutenant Sarah Kim, floating next to him. We have a new target. Reed looked at the data she handed him. It showed a hegemony patrol route that passed through an empty star system every 6 days. The patrol always had 3 ships, always took the same path, always arrived at the same time. How many crew on each ship? Reed asked. 50 to 70, Kim said. All military, no civilians. Reed nodded. The Ghost crews had strict rules about not hurting innocent people, even alien innocent people. This war was against the hegemony government and military, not against regular aliens who had no choice about their leaders. What kind of weapons do they carry? Reed asked. Standard patrol loadout, Kim said. Nothing too heavy. They are not expecting trouble in that system. They should be, Reed said. Set course for the intercept point. We have a patrol to catch. Back on the hegemony command ship, Zarthik was having another argument with his boss, Admiral Kreshver. The admiral was a large alien with thick scales and small eyes. He had been put in charge of the human territories because the hegemony high command thought it would be an easy job. There is no organized resistance, Kreshver said for the 10th time. These incidents are just random problems. Equipment breaks down. Ships get lost. It happens. Admiral, with respect, the pattern suggests otherwise, Zarthik said. These incidents are too coordinated to be random. Coordinated by whom? Kreshver demanded. The human fleet is destroyed. Their leaders are dead or captured. Their worlds are under our control. Who exactly do you think is organizing this resistance? Zarthik had been thinking about that question for weeks. What if we did not destroy their fleet completely? What if some ships escaped and went into hiding? Impossible, Kreshver said. Our sensors would have detected them? Not if they were designed to be undetectable. Kreshver laughed. The humans are not that clever. They are a young species, barely 200 years in space. They do not have technology advanced enough to hide from our sensors. Zarthik wanted to argue more, but he knew it was pointless. Kreshver had already made up his mind. Like most hegemony officers, he believed aliens from young species were naturally inferior. The idea that humans might be smarter than expected was something he could not accept. 3 days later, Patrol Group 7 stopped responding to communications. Commander, Reed watched through the periscope as his team finished their work. The 3 hegemony ships floated dead in space. Their crews unconscious from the sleep gas his people had pumped into their air systems. No one was hurt, but all 3 ships were now useless. Reed's team had cut power cables, deleted computer files, and stolen anything that looked important. They had also left behind a few surprises that would cause problems later. When the crews woke up, they would find their ships barely functional and their pride badly damaged. "All teams report ready," Kim said over the radio. "Good work, everyone," Reed said. "Time to disappear?" The ghost ship activated its stealth systems and vanished from sensors. By the time the Hegemony rescue ships arrived, Reed and his crew were already light years away, planning their next target. Zarthik stared at the latest report. Patrol Group 7 had been found drifting in space, completely helpless. The crews were alive but embarrassed. They claimed that their ships had simply stopped working, one after another, for no reason they could explain. "Equipment failure," Admiral Kreshver said when Zarthik brought him the report. "Old ships, probably poorly maintained." "Sir, these were new ships," Zarthik said. "They had just passed their safety inspections last week." "Then it was sabotage," Kreshver said. "Some disloyal crew member, probably. Have all the crews investigated for treason." Zarthik sighed. "Yes, Admiral." But Zarthik knew the truth. This was not equipment failure or sabotage by crew members. This was warfare conducted by an enemy that the Hegemony refused to acknowledge still existed. That night, Zarthik sat alone in his quarters, studying every report from the last 3 months. He drew lines between incidents, looking for connections. Slowly, a picture began to form. The attacks were not random. They followed shipping routes and communication lines. Someone was mapping the Hegemony's operations in the former human territories, learning their weaknesses, testing their defenses. Someone was preparing for something bigger. Zia opened a secure communication line to his old friend at Hegemony. "Intelligence, I need a favor," he said. "I need you to run a deep scan for stealth ships in the occupied territories." "Stealth ships?" his friend replied. "What makes you think there are stealth ships?" "Because," Zarthik said, "I think the humans are still fighting this war and we never noticed." The scan would take several days to complete. While he waited, Zarthik continued studying the reports. Each incident seemed small by itself, but together they painted a picture of an enemy that was much more organized and dangerous than anyone believed. The humans had not surrendered. They had just changed tactics and they were winning. Admiral Sarah Chun stood in the command center of the hidden base on Pluto. The walls were covered with screens showing star maps, ship positions, and battle reports. For 3 months, the ghost crews had been doing their job perfectly. Now it was time for the real fight to begin. "Report from all sectors," she said to General Torres. "Ghost operations have exceeded expectations," Torres said, reading from his tablet. "The Hegemony has pulled back 30% of their outer patrol fleets to protect their core systems. They are spreading their forces thin, trying to guard everything at once." Sarah smiled. That was exactly what she had hoped would happen. "What about our fleet preparations?" "All ships are ready," Torres said. "The crews have finished their training. The new weapons have been installed and tested. Everyone knows their mission." Sarah looked at the main screen, which showed the location of every human ship in the galaxy. There were not as many as before the war, but what they had was different now. Better, the ships had been rebuilt using captured Hegemony technology, but with human improvements that the aliens had never thought of. "Send the signal to all fleet?" "Commanders," Sarah said. "Operation Payback begins in 6 hours." Captain Zarthik was still studying reports when the first attacks began. His computer started beeping with urgent messages from across the Hegemony territories. At first, he thought, it was another equipment malfunction. Then the reports kept coming. "Sir," Commander Veltar said, running into his office, "we have multiple attacks happening at the same time. At least 20 different locations." Zarthik pulled up the tactical display. Red warning symbols were appearing all over the map. "What kind of attacks?" "All different," Veltar said. "Some are hitting military bases. Others are attacking supply convoys. There are reports of ships attacking communication relays, mining stations, even prisoner camps." "How many ships are we talking about?" "That is the strange part," Veltar said. "Each attack seems to involve only a few ships. Maybe 5 or 6 at most, but they are hitting us everywhere at once." Zarthik stared at the display. This was not how space battles usually worked. When two fleets fought, they gathered all their ships together and tried to destroy each other in one big battle. But the humans were doing something completely different. "Get me Admiral Kreshver," Zarthik said. When the Admiral appeared on the screen, he looked angry and confused. "What is happening, Captain?" "My staff is telling me we are under attack, but they cannot tell me where the main enemy fleet is located." "I do not think there is a main fleet, sir," Zarthik said. "I think the humans have split their forces into many small groups." "That is stupid," Kreshver said. "Small groups cannot defeat large fleets. They will be destroyed one by one." "Sir, with respect, I think they are trying to do something else," Zarthik said. "They are not trying to destroy our fleets. They are trying to make us panic." Commander Marcus Reed watched from the bridge of his new ship as the human attack fleet struck a hegemony supply depot. This was not the same invisible vessel he had been using for the Ghost operations. This was a full-sized warship, painted with Earth's colors and armed with the latest human weapons. "Target destroyed," reported his weapons officer. "No enemy casualties. The depot crew evacuated before we arrived." "Good," Reed said. "Set course for the next target." Reed's group was one of 20 human fleets operating independently across the galaxy. Each group had its own targets, its own tactics, its own rules of engagement. Some focused on destroying military supplies. Others rescued human prisoners. A few specialized in capturing alien technology. The key was that none of the groups worked together in the traditional sense. If one group was discovered and attacked, the others could continue fighting. If the hegemony sent a large fleet to destroy one human group, that fleet could not be used to defend against the other 19 groups. "Commander," said Lieutenant Kim, who had transferred to his new ship, "we are receiving a message from Ghost 7. They report successful completion of their mission at the Centauri Communication Hub." Reed nodded. The Ghost crews were still operating, now working alongside the regular fleet. The combination was deadly. While the main fleets kept the hegemony military busy, the Ghost crews continued their invisible war against supply lines and infrastructure. Admiral Kreshver was beginning to understand that he had a serious problem. Reports were coming in from everywhere, and none of them made sense when put together. The humans were attacking dozens of targets at once, but never with enough ships to pose a real threat to any single location. "How many human ships are we facing?" he asked his intelligence officer. "We estimate between 100 and 150 ships total," the officer replied. "That is all," Kreshver was surprised. "We have over 1,000 ships in this sector alone. Why are we having so much trouble with such a small force?" "The problem is not the number of their ships, sir," Zarthik said. "The problem is how they are using them. Every time we send ships to defend one location, they attack somewhere else. When we try to concentrate our forces, they scatter and hit us from multiple directions." Kreshver slammed his fist on the table. "Then we will gather our entire fleet and destroy them all at once." "Sir, which group do we attack?" Zarthik asked. "They are spread across 50 star systems. By the time we reach one group, the others will have hit a dozen more targets and moved on." On Earth, Admiral Chen was reading the latest battle reports with satisfaction. The human fleets were performing even better than she had hoped. In just 2 days, they had destroyed or damaged over 100 hegemony facilities without losing a single ship. More importantly, they were making the aliens afraid. "The hegemony is pulling ships back from the outer territories," Torres reported. "They are trying to create a defensive line around their core systems." "Let them," Sarah said. "The more ships they pull back, the weaker their grip becomes on the conquered worlds." That had been part of the plan from the beginning. The human attacks were designed not just to damage the hegemony, but to force them to change their tactics. Every ship they pulled back to defend their homeworlds was one less ship occupying human territory. "What about the liberated worlds?" Sarah asked. 17 so far," Torres said. "The local populations are cooperating. They remember what life was like before the hegemony conquered them." Sarah felt a warm feeling in her chest. The human fleets were not just fighting to get revenge. They were fighting to free all the worlds that had been conquered by the hegemony over the centuries. Every planet they liberated was a victory for justice, not just for humanity. Captain Zarthik was working late in his office when he finally understood what the humans were really doing. He had been studying their attack patterns for hours, trying to find some logic in the chaos. Then it hit him: the humans were not trying to win a traditional space war. They were trying to win a political war. Every attack was carefully chosen to cause maximum disruption with minimum casualties. They destroyed military supplies but let the crews escape. They captured prisoners but treated them well. They liberated conquered worlds but did not occupy them themselves. The humans were not trying to build an empire. They were trying to destroy one. Zarthik opened a communication channel to Admiral Kreshver. "Sir, I need to speak with you urgently." "What is it now, Captain?" Kreshver sounded tired. "Sir, I think I understand what the humans are doing," Zarthik said. "They are not fighting a military campaign. They are fighting a liberation campaign." "What do you mean?" "Every world they attack, they free from our control," Zarthik explained. "Every facility they destroy, they make sure the local population sees it. They are not trying to conquer territory. They are trying to inspire rebellion." Kreshver was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "How many worlds have revolted against us in the past week?" Zarthik checked his reports. 43, sir." "And how many have we lost control of completely?" 28, sir." Kreshver cursed in his native language. "The humans are not just fighting us. They are turning our own empire against us?" "Yes, sir," Zarthik said, "and it is working." Commander Reed stood on the bridge of his ship, watching as another hegemony outpost surrendered without firing a shot. The alien crew was evacuating in small transports, heading back to their home systems. "That makes 12 facilities this week," Lieutenant Kim reported. "The hegemony forces are abandoning the outer sectors entirely," Reed smiled. The human strategy was working better than anyone had dared to hope. By fighting many small battles instead of one big one, they had forced the hegemony to fight on too many fronts at once. The alien empire was collapsing from within, just as Admiral Chun had predicted. "Set course for the next system," Reed said. "We have more work to do." The war was far from over, but for the first time since the betrayal at New Geneva Station, humanity was winning. And they were doing it their way. Commander Marcus Reed stood in the data center of a captured hegemony research station. His team had been expecting to find military information, but what they discovered was much worse. The walls were lined with computers containing thousands of files about different alien species across the galaxy. "Commander, you need to see this," Lieutenant Kim said, her voice shaking. She was staring at a screen showing a list of destroyed civilizations. Reed walked over and read the names. The Kaleri Empire, extinct 50 years ago. The Zoan Collective, destroyed 37 years ago. The Miran Federation, wiped out 22 years ago. The list went on and on, showing dozens of species that no longer existed. "What happened to all these people?" Reed asked. Kim opened another file. "The same thing that almost happened to us. The hegemony made contact, pretended to want peace, then betrayed them when they were most vulnerable." Reed felt his stomach turn as he read the details. Each species had followed the same pattern. First contact with the hegemony. Months or years of peaceful negotiations, trade agreements, and cultural exchanges. Then sudden, coordinated attacks that destroyed entire civilizations in a matter of hours. The Kaleri had a population of 8 billion, Kim said, reading from another file. They were known for their art and music. The hegemony wiped them out because they refused to give up their independence. "And the Zoan?" Reed asked. 6 billion people, Kim said. They were scientists and explorers. The hegemony destroyed them because they discovered something the aliens wanted to keep secret. Reed walked to another computer and opened more files. Each one told the same story. The hegemony had been doing this for centuries, targeting younger species and destroying them before they could become a threat. Humanity was not their first victim. They were just the latest in a long line of genocide. "Copy everything," Reed ordered. "Every file, every record, every piece of evidence. The galaxy needs to know what the hegemony has been doing." Admiral Sarah Chun was in a meeting with her senior officers when the data from Reed's team arrived. She opened the files and felt the blood drain from her face as she read about the destroyed civilizations. 43 species, General Torres said quietly. 43 entire civilizations wiped out by the hegemony over the past 200 years, and nobody knew? Asked Admiral Hayes, commander of the Third Fleet. The hegemony covered it up. Every time, Sarah said. They made it look like natural disasters, civil wars, or plagues. Only a few species survived to tell the truth, and nobody believed them. Sarah stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Earth looked peaceful and beautiful. It was hard to believe that their planet had almost joined the list of dead worlds. "This changes everything," she said. "How so?" Torres asked. "This is not just about revenge anymore," Sarah said. "This is about justice. The hegemony has been committing genocide for centuries, and they will keep doing it until someone stops them." Sarah turned back to her officers. "Send copies of these files to every news organization in human space. Then broadcast them on every frequency we can reach. I want every surviving species in the galaxy to know what the hegemony has done." "That will cause chaos," Admiral Hayes warned. "If these files are real, it means the hegemony has been lying to everyone for 200 years. "Good," Sarah said. "It's time for the truth to come out." On the hegemony capital ship, Supreme Admiral Vexenoth was having the worst day of his long military career. Reports were coming in from across the Empire. The humans had somehow obtained classified files from dozens of secret facilities and were broadcasting them to the entire galaxy. How did they get access to those records? He demanded. "Unknown, sir," replied his intelligence chief. "The files were stored in the most secure facilities in the Empire. They should have been impossible to steal." Vexenoth looked at the damage reports on his screen. In the past 6 hours, 15 member species had declared their independence. From the hegemony, 3 more had started open rebellions. And the humans were still broadcasting evidence of the Empire's crimes to anyone who would listen. "What do the files contain exactly?" Vexenoth asked. "Everything, sir," the intelligence chief said. "Records of every terminated species. Battle plans for their destruction. Even personal communications between commanders discussing the operations." Vexenoth cursed. "Those files were supposed to have been destroyed years ago. Keeping them had been a mistake, but some commanders had wanted to preserve the records for historical purposes. Now those records were being used to destroy the Empire." "Sir," said another officer, "we are receiving reports of uprisings on 17 core worlds. The local populations are demanding independence. How many loyal fleets do we still have?" Vexenoth asked. "About 60% of our original strength," the officer replied. "The rest have either joined the rebellions or returned to their home systems to protect their own worlds." Vexenoth realized that the empire his people had built over centuries was falling apart in a matter of days. The humans had not just defeated them militarily. They had exposed the lies that held the empire together. Dr. Zarthik was reading the leaked files in his quarters when Commander Veltar knocked on his door. His friend looked pale and shaken. "Did you know about this?" Veltar asked, holding up a tablet showing the evidence of genocide. "No," Zarthik said. "I knew we were aggressive in our expansion, but I never imagined we were committing mass murder. My own species joined the hegemony 50 years ago," Veltar said. "We were told the Kaleri had destroyed themselves in a civil war. But these files show that we helped the hegemony wipe them out." Zarthik felt sick. He had spent his entire career serving what he thought was a force for order and stability in the galaxy. Now he discovered he had been working for monsters. "What do we do?" Veltar asked. "We contact the human fleet," Zarthik said. "We offer to surrender and provide them with any information they need." "That is treason," Veltar said. "No," Zarthik replied. Continuing to serve the hegemony would be treason. Treason against every innocent species in the galaxy. The two officers spent the next hour composing a message to the human forces. They were not the only ones. Across the Empire, hegemony officers who had never known the truth about their government were making the same choice. Admiral Chun was reviewing surrender offers from hegemony commanders when the emergency alert sounded. General Torres rushed into her office with a tablet in his hand. "Sarah, we have a problem," he said. "The hegemony leadership has activated something called Project Final Solution." "What is that?" Sarah asked. "According to our intelligence sources, it's a network of planet-killer weapons," Torres said. "They have weapons pointed at Earth, Mars, and every major human colony." Sarah felt her heart stop. "How long do we have?" "Unknown," Torres said. "The weapons can be fired from the hegemony capital ship. If they decide they cannot win this war, they plan to make sure humanity does not survive it either." Sarah looked at the tactical display showing the positions of all human and hegemony forces. The enemy capital ship was heavily defended, surrounded by their most loyal fleets. Getting to it would require a massive assault that would cost thousands of lives. How many planet-killer weapons are we talking about? She asked. "At least 12, Torres said. "Enough to destroy every human world." Sarah closed her eyes and thought about David, about the 40,000 people who died at New Geneva Station, about the 43 species that had been wiped out by the hegemony over the centuries. All those innocent people killed by aliens who believed they had the right to decide which species lived and which died. "Assemble the fleet," she said. "All ships, all crews. We are going to end this once and for all." "Sarah, the capital ship has the strongest defenses in the galaxy," Torres warned. "We could lose half our fleet trying to reach it." "Then we lose half our fleet," Sarah said. "But we do not let them commit another genocide. Not on our watch." Commander Reed received the orders while his ship was liberating another hegemony outpost. All human forces were to converge on the enemy capital for a final assault. The mission was simple: stop the planet killers before they could be used. "How long to reach the target?" Reed asked his navigator. 18 hours at maximum speed, came the reply. Reed looked at his crew. These people had volunteered for a suicide mission once before when they joined the Ghost program. Now they were being asked to do it again. "You all know what this means." Reed said, "The hegemony has weapons that can destroy Earth. If we fail, billions of people die." "We will not fail," Lieutenant Kim said. "We did not come this far to let them win now," Reed smiled. These were the people who had spent months as ghosts, fighting an invisible war against an empire that thought it was invincible. They had already done the impossible once. Now they would do it again. "All right, people," Reed said. "Let's go save the galaxy." Across human space, every available ship began moving toward the same destination. The final battle was about to begin, and the fate of every living being in the galaxy hung in the balance. The human fleet appeared around the hegemony capital ship like a swarm of angry bees. Admiral Sarah Chun watched from her command bridge as hundreds of vessels took positions around the massive alien fortress. The enemy ship was 3 times larger than anything humanity had ever built, bristling with weapons and protected by energy shields that could stop a planet-killing asteroid. "All ships report ready," General Torres said. "We have 412 vessels in attack formation." Sarah looked at the tactical display. The hegemony capital ship was surrounded by 200 loyal warships, their crews still believing they were protecting the rightful rulers of the galaxy. Those crews had no idea their leaders were planning to commit genocide. "Open a channel to all ships," Sarah ordered. "This is Admiral Chun to all human forces. Today we fight not just for ourselves, but for every species the hegemony has murdered over the past 2 centuries. We fight so that no other civilization will suffer what we have suffered." The response came immediately. 400 voices speaking as one. "We remember." Commander Marcus Reed guided his ship through the outer defensive line, his pilot weaving between enemy fire with skill born from months of ghost operations. His mission was different from the main fleet. While they fought the defending ships, he and 11 other Ghost crews had to reach the capital ship itself and stop the planet killers from firing. Ghost 7 reporting heavy resistance, came a voice over the radio. We have lost 2 ships, but are still advancing. Ghost 15. Here, said another commander. We have a clear path to the lower docking bays. Reed checked his own position. His ship was moving through a gap in the enemy formation, invisible to their sensors thanks to the stealth technology his engineers had perfected during the long months of preparation. Ghost 1 to all Ghost units, Reed said. Remember, we need to reach the planet killer control room. Everything else is secondary. Inside the hegemony capital ship, Supreme Admiral Vexenoth was watching the human attack with growing desperation. His fleet was outnumbered 2-1, and the humans were fighting with a fury he had never seen before. Sir, the humans have broken through our outer defenses, reported his tactical officer. They are heading straight for us. Activate the planet killers, Vexenoth ordered. Target Earth first. If we are going to die today, we will take them. With us? Sir, the weapons need 10 minutes to charge fully, the officer said. Then give them 10 minutes, Vexenoth said. Order all remaining ships to protect this vessel at all costs. Captain Zarthik was commanding one of the defending ships when he received the order to protect the capital ship. He stared at his communications screen, knowing that following that order meant helping to destroy billions of innocent people. Sir, are you going to respond? Asked Commander Veltar. Zarthik thought about all the files he had read. All the destroyed civilizations. All the lies his people had been told about their glorious empire. He thought about his own children, safe on his home world, and wondered what kind of galaxy he wanted to leave them. Open a channel to the human fleet, Zarthik said. Sir? Veltar looked confused. Open the channel, Zarthik repeated. This is Captain Zarthik of the Hegemony Ship Retribution calling the human fleet. I am offering my surrender and the surrender of my crew. We will not participate in genocide. Other voices began joining him on the communication channel. Captain after captain, ship after ship, choosing to abandon the Empire rather than help it commit mass murder. Within minutes, half of the defending fleet had surrendered, leaving the human forces with a clear path to the capital ship. Reed's Ghost team had fought their way deep into the enemy vessel, leaving a trail of unconscious guards behind them. They used non-lethal weapons whenever possible, stunning rather than killing. Even in the middle of battle, they remembered their mission was justice, not revenge. The control room is 2 levels up, Lieutenant Kim said, checking her scanner. Heavy security, but nothing we cannot handle? What about the other teams? Reed asked. Ghost 7 reached the main computer core, came a voice over the radio. We are downloading their complete database for evidence. Ghost 15 has secured the prison levels, said another voice. We found over 1,000 political prisoners from dozens of species. They are safe now. Reed smiled. Even while fighting for their lives, the human crews were thinking about saving others. That was what made them different from the hegemony. They fought not to conquer, but to liberate. Admiral Chun watched as her fleet surrounded the capital ship. The defending forces had either surrendered or been destroyed, leaving the massive fortress alone and helpless. But she knew the real battle was happening inside that ship, where Reed and his teams were racing against time to stop the planet killers. Admiral, reported her communications officer, we are receiving surrender offers from 17 more hegemony fleets across the galaxy. The Empire is collapsing everywhere. Good, Sarah said. But none of that matters if we cannot stop those weapons. On the main screen, she could see energy building up around the capital ship's main guns. The planet killers were charging, getting ready to fire at Earth. Sarah thought about all the people on her homeworld who had no idea how close they were to death. Ghost 1 to Fleet Command, came Reed's voice over the radio. We have reached the planet killer control room. Beginning shutdown procedures now? Supreme Admiral Vexenoth stood in his command center, watching as human soldiers fought their way through his ship. His own security forces were falling back on every level, unable to stop the determined attackers. "Sir, the planet killers are at 90% charge," reported his weapons officer. "Fire as soon as they reach full power," Vexanath ordered. "Even if we can only destroy one human world, it will be worth it." But as he spoke, the lights in the command center flickered and went out. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in red light. "What happened?" Vexanath demanded. "The humans have reached the main control systems," the weapons officer said. "They are shutting down our primary systems." Reed stood in the planet killer control room, his hands flying over the alien controls as he worked to disable the massive weapons. The hegemony had built these systems to be secure, but months of studying captured technology had taught human engineers how to crack their codes. "Almost got it," Reed said to his team. "Just need another minute." "Commander, we have company," Lieutenant Kim warned. She was watching the door, her weapon ready. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. The remaining loyal guards were making one last attempt to stop them. "Keep working," Kim said. "We will hold them off." The door exploded inward as hegemony soldiers tried to storm the room. Reed's team fought back, using the control panels as cover while their commander continued working on the shutdown sequence. "Got it!" Reed shouted as the last safety lock disengaged. "Planet killers are offline. They cannot fire." The relief in his voice was matched by cheers from every human ship. In the fleet, Earth was safe. The colonies were safe. Millions of people would live to see another day. Admiral Chun felt tears in her eyes as she heard the confirmation. The war was over, the hegemony was finished, and humanity had not just won, they had won without becoming monsters themselves. "All ships, this is Admiral Chun," she broadcast. "The planet killers have been disabled. The hegemony leadership is under arrest. The war is over." But even as she celebrated, Sarah was already thinking about what came next. The galaxy was full of species that had been oppressed by the hegemony for centuries. They would need help. Rebuilding their worlds, their governments, their lives. "General Torres," she said, "begin preparations for the Liberation Council. We need representatives from every freed species." "What about the hegemony territories?" Torres asked. "We do not occupy them," Sarah said. "We help their people build new governments." "Free governments? The age of empire is over." 6 months later, Admiral Chun stood in the Memorial Hall on New Geneva Station, rebuilt as a symbol of hope rather than tragedy. The walls were covered with the names of everyone who had died in the hegemony's crimes, not just humans, but beings from all 43 destroyed civilizations. Commander Reed stood beside her, his mission finally complete. He had volunteered to be a ghost, to give up everything for the chance at justice. Now he was ready to return to a normal life, knowing that his sacrifice had meant something. "Do you think they will remember?" Reed asked, looking at the memorial wall. "They will remember," Sarah said. "We will make sure of it. Every child in every school will learn about what happened here, about the price of trusting those who speak of peace while hiding weapons behind their backs. And if someone tries this again?" Sarah smiled, but there was steel in her expression. "Then they will learn what we learned. Humanity does not forget a betrayal, and we do not forgive genocide." Outside the station, human exploration ships were heading into deep space, carrying teachers and doctors and engineers to worlds that had never known freedom. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of species that might one day threaten others. But now it also had guardians people who remembered the cost of letting evil go unchecked. The memorial wall bore a simple message at its base. "Their treachery will not be forgotten. We remember so others may be free." And humanity kept that promise, forever watchful among the stars.